some familiar faces. All right, so today.
Yeah, I gotta, okay, I gotta just,
So today we're gonna talk about agentic commerce and what really agentic commerce really entails. We currently right now, we built all the financial system around the premise that held for decades. Every transaction had to be done by a human. One person making a choice, accepting the term, clicking approve. That's how everything currently works today. As we transition into the agentic environment, that premise is now structurally incorrect. And the implication for how we govern and how we audit and how we think about the enterprise risk is not keeping pace with everything else. Over the next 45 days, over the next 45 minutes, I'm gonna walk you guys through what I believe agentic commerce is and where we're moving towards. I'm working with some particular projects. Obviously, I can't disclose them, but I'm gonna give you some very specific examples in terms of what we're doing on those particular agentic engagements.
next. What's that? No, because I've got a PDF.
Okay.
Just let me know when and I can.
All right, so again, from a platform information and quick tips, you can download it, download the presentation, or actually the presentation will be sent to you guys. Going. Yeah, we can just skip these. All right, so for the agenda today, I'm gonna cover really five or six topics. We're gonna get into much deeper for the agenda. Is one, we're gonna talk about the shift, how agents actually work. That's pretty important because you need to understand how agents work. You can't audit something you don't understand. Two, it's gonna talk about the risk landscape. I think it's gonna be a good topic for this particular audience. The governance architecture in terms of the control and the regulatory environment. There are some regulators that are moving faster than others, and other regulators carry a bigger stick than others. The audit mandate in terms of what you need to do, in terms of what you need to think about when you go back, and that's all included within the presentation. And then we'll talk about best practices in closing. Yeah. Again, this is very similar to the previous slide in terms of the learning objectives, but ultimately what I'm gonna teach you is I'm gonna give you guys 3 key takeaways that you need to understand and that you need to make sure that you can take back in order for you to be effective in understanding how you can actually monitor the agents. All right, let's move on. Excellent. All right, so this is really the premise, right? So everybody's talking about AI and agents and, workforce reduction, et cetera. But the reality is, I believe that there's gonna be more employment that's gonna be gained throughout this agentic evolution that we're going through. However, it's not going to be the same skill set that you have today that's gonna be necessary for you to be successful in the next round. I believe in it. Most organizations are gonna have one agent. They're gonna have 10 agents for every single employee. That's how the workflow is going to work out. Okay. Now, what evidence do we have currently right now in terms of where we're moving towards? If you look at it, Coinbase have come up with X402 protocol. That is actually agent wallets. That enables an agent to actually have actual currency. It's not a credit card, it's actually currency connected back to your financial statements. Stripe is coming up with a Agentic Commerce Protocol, ACP, which is gonna be probably one of the dominant agent interactions that we're going to have currently right now, because they're aligned with OpenAI. And later on in the presentation, you will see all the partnership that they're building up, like they're working with Walmart, Sam's Club, and most recently on an update I'll give you guys on the upcoming slide number 6, they are working with Amazon, and that pretty much tells you where the industry is moving. ARM and Cloudflare are also doing very similar capability. However, ARM is now building their own in-house CPU. And that is significant because ARM previously was just designing the CPUs, but now ARM is coming into the game, building their own CPU for agentic AI. Cool. Okay, what is real and what is emerging, right? So currently right now we have machine payment rails processing 50 million transactions. On this slide, this slide is outdated. This slide is 2 weeks old. So over here, I have put still developing. That is not accurate because right now, as I stand here, Visa, MasterCard, and American Express have all shipped named agent payment products in the last 30 days. Okay. MasterCard has now issued verifiable intent and is ready to process live transactions across Latin America and Asia, along with 16 partners. PayPal just confirmed that 95% of merchants are already seeing AI agent traffic, but only 20% have machine readable catalogs. So this is going to be one of the key things that I want you guys to focus on and be able to take back from this presentation is if the agent can't see you, are you visible? Are you in business? You don't exist. Agents don't have feelings, they don't click, they nothing. They just need metadata in order to process a transaction. That is it. API connection, MCPs, that's all they need, and they move on. If you don't have it, they just go. They just skip. So, and I'm gonna talk more about that as we get through the presentation.
And just a quick question, so even what you're sharing, that's just how fast things are happening.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah, we have, I have some connections up in San Jose, but this is moving a lot faster. So all these updates I'm sharing is what is out there, public knowledge, either released through the CEO or through the marketing, but it's moving very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Okay. Move on to the next slide. So this is really what the architecture really looks like from a high level, right? So before it used to be a human-centric process, human application data. That's what it used to be. Now it's agent-driven system, right? On a paradigm, it's autonomous agent orchestrate the interaction between themselves and various systems to access data. So we're building up the agent capability, but what does that all truly mean? Move on to the next slide. So this is really an architecture. Now, obviously, I could spend probably an hour walking you through this, but it's going to be different for every single organization. And especially if you look at on the very bottom, if you look at your architecture, it's going to depend whether you're a CrowdStrike, Defender, or Palo Alto, because the telemetry is going to drive all that data upward as you manage your agent. So today, most of us are operating under human application data. Okay? Agents operate agent system data. This is all you really need to understand. The agents are operating agent system data. What does that mean? So I've created different scenarios that I present to different organizations just depending on who they are, but I'm gonna walk you guys through one little scenario that I created just recently, right? So a patient is wearing a glucose monitor and flags an abnormal reading, right? You guys with me? We all wear all this data, Apple has it, right? But this particular patient, nobody touches the keyboard. The agent checks the health records, identifies the right lab panel, calls the insurance API, confirms in-network $25 copay, finds an open appointment 1.8 miles away from where you're sitting. It knows exactly where you sit. The agent knows, it's tracking. It doesn't matter if you're on vacation or if you're in Italy or wherever you are, the agent knows where you are. The agent knows where the lab, where you need to go to get a test because you now have abnormal levels outside of your range. It finds the appointment, creates the appointment, sends a patient notification. Now you're gonna get a notification on your phone, say, do you want to confirm this appointment? Right? So again, we're talking about agent, right? Once you confirm it, the agent books it, transmits the lab order, pre-populates everything, patient drives over, gives blood, go home. Here's another thing I forgot. When the agent gets there to the lab, you don't have to fill in. Yeah, I'm allergic to latex gloves. No, the agent has already given that data because it's already in your system. So all you show is your ID, get the blood work, go home, right? What happens now? The results go simultaneously to the patient's app and the physician. An agent flags the results against the current medication regime and surfaces a prescription recommendation. So now it's actually the agent providing the recommendation to the physician, but the physician reviews it, verifies it, makes changes, or approve that prescription. Okay, you follow? It's still agent, now it's system, correct? The results simultaneously go to, we talked about that. A second agent flags the results and then confirm the prescription. The doctor issues that prescription. Now we're talking about 6 different systems, agent, but in this particular scenario, there are 6 different systems that are running. So once your physician releases that prescription, it goes to your pharmacy, your nearest pharmacy. But what if you're traveling? The agent knows you're traveling. Your agent knows your location. The agent knows you're staying at the Marriott down by XYZ. So not only is the agent going to issue a payment to the pharmacy, it's going to schedule somebody to pick up that prescription and deliver it to you. Okay? That is the process. That is an agent system data, and I can't give you a more clear picture of what agentic AI scenarios could potentially be for us. Okay? Now, the governance questions are the ones that all of us are going to probably ask. Who authorized each of these API calls? Because these are calls, right? Each one of these is actually a call. Okay, who owns the decision on route? What is the audit trail? Who gets the call when something goes wrong? Right? These are the questions that we all have to answer. A commercial decision may happen before a seller ever got involved. The seller may not be receiving the browsing customer. The seller may be receiving an authorized transaction, an attempt by an agent. And then increasingly, that is going to be the case. The audit control question is not, can the agent transact? Because the agent did, right? So this is where we come in as from a security standpoint, from an audit standpoint. Those are the questions that you have to ask. Let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, if I can real quick, that's just crazy to think of, the weight of the supply chain.
Yeah.
And everything you described.
So we're gonna get to another slide that talks about perception, right? So the reality is, McKinsey predicted that by 2030, agent actions are going to interact $1 trillion. Why do you guys think companies like ARM go from designing chips for 30 years to now manufacturing agentic chips? Why do you think I started off and tell you guys the prediction is going to be, we're gonna have 1 employee plus how many agents? 10. There's gonna be an entire workforce that needs to be capable to manage the agents. And if you go back on the other slide, on the previous slide, the one thing that you need to understand as an auditor, you need to understand how to audit the interfaces. These are the interfaces.
That's where you need to manage the agents. And we call them interfaces. Some of my peers call them hops. You need to be able to manage and understand what happened at each one of those hops. If you don't, you can't justify and provide risk assurance over agentic AI. Understand the hops and the transfers. I'll call them transfers, but my colleagues call them hops. Let's move forward. Okay, next. So how are you going to manage all this agentic AI? I believe there's going to be GRC tools that we are going to use from an audit perspective. I think that the cyber guys, they're going to manage all the agents at the telemetry level. So CrowdStrike, Defender, Palo Alto, they're all releasing capabilities where you can actually manage autonomous agents. Because the one thing that you cannot do, you cannot manage agents the way we do it right now. The velocity doesn't match. They're moving significantly faster than anything else we've ever seen. So this is what I believe. There are different opinions, but from an audit perspective, internal auditors, we're gonna manage them at the GRC level. Cyber guys, they're gonna be managing them at the infrastructure level. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So we have a question here. I don't know how you want to release that.
Yeah, and for everybody online, I'm gonna post it as a poll.
So I'm not gonna go into the details of it, but Cloudflare Markdown for agents feature primarily serves what purpose in the agentic economy? So the answer is, anyone? What, trip to Disney? Anyone?
Oh, we got some people still submitting on the plot.
Anyone? A trip to downtown Chula Vista? The shopping center? Take a guess. Huh? You, my friend, you are going to Chula Vista downtown, and I'll give you a $5 Starbucks card. All right, next one. Let's move on, because I know I'm tracking a little bit behind. Next slide.
And that's fine on our end.
All right, so how agents work, architecture, protocol, and execution, okay? I'm gonna go through this pretty quickly, but let's move on to the next slide. So agentic AI architecture and overview. What you're gonna have 5 common layers. Now, depending on what school of thought you're operating under, and depending on if I don't know, hypothetically, I'm making a joke here, but you guys might not get it, but if you're at Palo Alto, you may have different layers. But in general, you're gonna have a perception, reasoning, memory, tool access, and execution layer. What you have to understand from an audit perspective is this is the layer that's most critical, the tool access. Because the API and the MCP, the multi-context protocol, that's where a lot of the stuff is going to be moving from. And then from the stack perspective, this is just a smorgasbord of different vendors, but I even believe that the MCP is gonna be probably the one that's gonna rule the world, okay? Because they have what? Anthropic, and it's open source. However, agent to agent is Google, and Google, I'm not gonna bet against Google, okay? I just wouldn't. AP2 and ACP, and there are multiple different protocol stacks that are out there in the market. However, I personally will believe most common is going to be the MCP and agent to agent. Google is just Google. Okay. Let's move on next one.
Sure. And we do have a question from online.
Yeah.
What are the most important data verifications done in that medical example to verify key input data being relied upon by the agent are reliable? How are those verifications done ahead of time or in process also?
Wow, okay, well, we're gonna need about 2 hours to walk through that question, but actually, it's a highly intelligent question because he's actually hitting on a couple core risks, right? And one of the questions I did ask is, who approved the agent to transact? Who is responsible for the agent to transact? That answer today, in some in some fields, has been answered. So Cilia, in the diagnostic, in the pharma industry, they've made it very clear that they put a person responsible, a director in the building is responsible. But when you talk about some of these agentic process flows, look, the regulation is way behind. If you think about the seniors, the senators in Washington, they are now just understanding how to Google things. Okay? So it's moving that fast. And so this weekend, I had at my niece, I was visiting with my niece, and she came up to ask her mom, well, can I look it up? Can I look it up on the laptop, on the iPad? And the mom said, yeah, go ahead. And I'm like, just Google it. And she looked at me and she goes, what's Google? She didn't even know what Google is, because in that particular household, they're using OpenAI because they have parental restrictions. So she goes in there and she can just speak and ask a question, but she had no clue what Google is. She no clue. So a 6-year-old is gonna grow up to maybe 10, not even know what some of these protocols are. But going back to the question, that's probably not a question I can address, but those are the right types of questions to ask, and you need to document those and making sure you get alignment with your general counsel, chief risk officer, your CISO, and the security team to make sure that you got at least some sort of decision tree associated with that question. Okay? Let's go. All right, so here's the other item that you should probably understand. Okay? Forget about this entire slide, but what you need to understand is in agentic AI, when we talked about agent system data, you need to understand that the delegator in agentic AI is an orchestrator agent. Orchestrator agent, they don't actually execute anything. All they do is delegate the task. So go back to the scenario where we talked about the glucose patient, right? What happened? There was delegation of tasks. The orchestrator can actually, in live scenarios, change the sequence of the task that you're asking it to execute. Yes, the orchestrator can actually change the sequence, right? Because what if you say, well, you know what? You want me to go to Del Mar to that lab, but actually I'm going to my niece's music recital. Could you change it because I need to go to the closest lab close to downtown? You're now changing what? The delegation. So the orchestrator is the only agent within that process that can actually change that sequence. So from an audit perspective, you need to understand who, to that question that was previously asked, they were asking, well, who has a responsibility around it, right? So the orchestrator, you need to understand that this is what you need to understand, the sequencing and how it actually moves. You don't care about the pricing, do you? $25 copay, okay, that was just an API call. If there's an issue, you go up and you pay $30 instead of $25. No big deal. Okay, so understand that the orchestrated agent within that agentic workflows is the delegator of tasks. So that's where you want to start if you want to get the answers to some of those key questions that somebody was asking online. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, how an agent executes a purchase, right? So I'm not gonna go into the details of this because I think I've kind of covered that a little bit, but it's that need identification, discovery evaluation, threshold check, purchase execution, and then the confirming the login, okay? The accuracy of the agent decision is entirely a function of how readable and writable the underlying systems are. So we talked about if the agent doesn't know, doesn't see you, you don't exist, is it going to interact with you? Yes or no?
No.
It's not. So a lot of people, my colleague that I work with, he's a digital marketer and he's making a ton of money. He's going to websites, he's going to big companies and tell them, I said, you know what? You guys spent $1 million to overhaul your entire website, but guess what? It's invisible. You can't transact. You know those creative people that we all don't get along with because we are IT auditors? There's people that sit in marketing wearing cool clothes and they talk about the different shades of green and different shades of yellow, the stuff that we don't care about because they think that that button is gonna drive traffic. Does an agent care? Does an agent care whether it's blue, black, yellow, red? Doesn't care. Agents don't care. You can build the most mundane, most boring site, and the agent's gonna be like, love it. Because you have metadata, JSON, you have everything that I need. Okay, let's move on to the next one. All right, how agent negotiates and execute a contract. The way agent execute contract today is almost like you go and you pay. In agentic world, you can actually, instead of just say, buy me this, you can just say, buy me this when the price goes down. Buy me this when this happens. Buy me this when this happens. You can have a long if statement and the agent can execute against that. Okay, next. Data relevance. If an agent can't read your data, you do not exist. Just understand that. If it can't read it, you don't exist. I'm going to show you what the agent needs in order to see your data. Okay. Most websites today are written for humans and are invisible to the agents. You don't exist if the agent can't see you. Agentic commerce flips the customer journey. The first customer in the funnel is going to be an algorithm. Okay, because we all have things. And this gets really scary when we talk about humanoids coming into our homes. Humanoids are going to start picking up on your preferences. You're drinking Coke. They hear you talking to your spouse. No, I don't like those pickles. I want the Vlasic pickles. What is wrong with you? Guess what? The agent picked up the brand. Vlasic pickles. That's what she likes. Not the Kirkland brand. Not, right? So all that data is eventually going to be stored into the agent, and the agent is going to remember it. And when you ask the agent, go get me pickles, the agent knows exactly what pickles to get you. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. So on this slide, it tells you exactly what the agent needs. This doesn't care. It doesn't care. You gotta have JSON file, API schemas, standardized ontology, version API for machine negotiable authorization, basically tokens. Okay. Every record carries last, updated, and effective through fields, machine readable entitlements, always on, high frequency. Please do not shut down your agent. Do not shut, because if the agents are shopping 24/7, in fact, most traffic is happening outside of business hours. Why? Because it's a global economy. People are ordering products not between Eastern Standard Time, 8 to 5. Okay? So now you see what the agent needs, and that's what you gotta feed it. Next, I think we got a question coming up. All right, so if you pay attention to the notes, the X402 protocol has been independently adopted by both Coinbase and Cloudflare. What does a convergence signal? Anybody? What does that conversion signal? Because remember, Coinbase and Cloudflare in the same week announced the same thing. They drew the same conclusion. And everybody thought that it was a collaboration or initiative, and it was not. Right? It is signaling that they're converging into one standardized protocol. And earlier, remember I talked about the different capabilities, MCP, da 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 da. Now they're starting to merge into one joint protocol. Now, there's gonna be IT guys that prefer this one, and I like this one better, whatever the case is. I get that. Okay, Dave, let's move on to the next slide.
So you're saying the correct answer was C?
That's correct. The correct
Okay.
answer is C. I'm sorry. Yes, the correct answer is C.
No, that's fine. That's what a majority of folks online were selected.
So those are smarter people, because the people in the classroom, only one person gave me C. Okay? People online are paying attention. That's great. So what is a risk landscape? Do we need to cover this? I mean, we are not risk professionals, are we? Oh, okay. Okay, we need to cover the risk landscape. All right. Let's talk about the risk landscape. Slide down. All right. So where controls actually fail? Well, they can fail everywhere. They can fail everywhere. They can fail everywhere. But misconfigured orchestration. So workflows granting spending authority beyond intended threshold. Beyond intended threshold. So what does that really mean for an agent? Agent will procure what you tell them to procure. Agent will not go outside the assigned thresholds. Or will they?
You said what they could.
Huh?
You just said they could with that,
Yeah, it's kind of like, yeah. You know, some agents have flexibility and they can actually, if they're off by, let's say, a certain mark or a certain percentage, they actually, the orchestrator will delegate a notification to the human, say, hey, you wanted to buy this. You talk about large things, like for $40 million. But what if it came out to like 40.12, and it's still a great deal? So the agent will send you a notification to see, can I go over the approved threshold? So that's why I'm kind of cautious, because some companies allow certain flexibility, but you can actually allocate, buy me this coffee with this flavors, with this and this and this, within this price. And the agent can execute that. Incomplete logging, speed without constraint, automated system executing rapid transaction during volatile condition, amplifying exposure before human review. And that's kind of what I talked about, right? Because some agents can actually execute certain things slightly over the approved thresholds. All right, let's go on. All right, so what's really the risk surface? I mean, what possibly could go wrong? I am so excited every time I read the news, because I'm waiting to hear a scenario that's going to play out. Sooner or later, you guys are gonna hear it. Company X lost $400 million due to the agent executing purchases or sales outside of the boundaries or without human interaction. Or they caught it, but they were not able to stop it. So how do you stop an agent that's executing outside of your boundaries? There's only one way. You need to test the kill switch. Test it. This is the one thing you need to write down. Test the kill switch. As auditors, security people, it's not that the kill switch exists. That is not the whole purpose of this. The kill switch has to be turned on and turned off. And you confirm that it worked. Because if it doesn't work, you're toast. So over here, you talk about the execution environment. We talk about the external services. and we talk about the data layer, right? So the delegated software agent, the agent itself is not the risk. The interfaces are. Remember I talked about, I call them interfaces. Some IT professionals call them hops, whatever you want to call them, right? Between agent and agent. That's where the biggest risk lies, and that's where you have to understand that you feel comfortable around it. Most of the IT guys know how to test this anyways, right? You go to most of the cyber guys, they've tested similar, the testing itself and the activity is nothing new to you guys, right? All right, let's move on. All right, so here's just really talking about the agentic risk taxonomy, the operational risk. In my opinion, I think the operational risk is gonna be the biggest one. It's the agent misconfiguration, orchestration failure, unintended workflow execution, system behaving within permission, but outside business intent. So what does that mean? Let me read the sentence to you guys here. System behaving within permissions, but outside your business intent. Yep,
Is that a hallucination?
Necessarily.
not necessarily. So the gentleman in the back asked, is that a hallucination? And the answer is not necessarily.
It's
Well, could there be a scenario where,
like,
there,
You're good, you're good.
is there a scenario where there's parameters, but it like would not encourage you to buy something or would kind of navigate you away from transacting?
Possibly, yeah. Right, but it's not hallucination because that's what everybody goes through. When this comes up, everybody's like, oh, this system is hallucinating. Agentic AI, they don't really, this is not an inference. Okay? Don't mix agentic AI with running an inference. You're not querying, you're not asking what's the temperature and whatever, right? So, but answer this question based on your own business operations and what you do. Are you a pharma company? Are you a financial services company? Whatever that company is, ask this question. What does system behaving within permission? It's allowed to do it, but it's not the intent of the business.
so, it's like, it's poorly defined guardrails. You've given it the permission to give a percentage discount for a certain volume, and then somebody figured out that, oh, if I buy just an exponential volume, it'll keep applying that discount, and it ends up being a, 99% discount, and that was not ever intended. So it's operating within the configuration, but operating as defined, but not as intended.
That's correct. That is on point, and thank you for taking the thunder out of my next two slides. Okay, that's exactly it. Go ahead.
One other question, so given that you're talking about the last statement, how do you address false positives and false and negatives?
It all goes back into the architecture, and let's go on to the next slide. I think we're gonna get to some of these answers. But that's on point. So identifying the credentials and risk. So here we're talking about the authorization delegation, right? We talked about the over permission and scoping, rogue spoken, and as well as credential replay. So there are some of these things that do come into your point, but at the end of the day, it's all about it's almost like bad data, you're gonna have bad results.
It's the age of garbage in, garbage out.
That's correct, exactly. So let's move on to the next one. So the systematic risk, these are the systematic risks that you really have to look for. Number 2 is what you need to understand. The 2021, okay? Prompt injection in the MCP can propagate through a protocol bridge to amplify the delegation of agent to agent beyond its original scope. So that sentence right there is critically important. But if I look at this in terms of what is the systematic risks, when agents amplify each other, this is the workflow that the agents are gonna go through. Next slide, Dave. Okay, the third party one, obviously, we all deal with third parties, third party risk. It does not go away with agentic AI. Amazon and Perplexity precedent, illegal precedent exists for unauthorized autonomous access to customer systems. Audit committees must understand its implications for agent initiated actions. So you have to take the corporation, the entity is responsible for the agents. You can't delegate that responsibility to say, oh, that wasn't us. It was an agent doing random or hallucination or doing whatever it was doing. No, that's not going to hold. Okay, I think we have a question coming up. Okay, model drift. This is also critically important. The most dangerous agentic risk is gradual, not acute. So to your point, in the example that you gave, what if the agent keeps applying that discount because you're buying something else, right? That you didn't intend. You're going to wake up and maybe your whole warehouse has been sold. You're committed.
Yeah.
You're contracted, right? Because remember, if the agent executes incorrectly, are you legally bound by that? They're legally bound contracts. You gotta ship your whole warehouse out there for that whole discount. Right? Now, the other piece too is like understand that quarterly audit cycle are not effective at the velocity of how agents operate. So you're gonna have to do more frequent audits on your agents than you probably have budgeted currently right now, if you have agentic AI deployed within your business, which most of you guys do, just don't know it yet. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so you know what? This agentic revolution is not gonna happen. These are the big misperceptions. How about let's just wait and build it later? Huh? Let's just wait and build it later. You know what? People would never trust agents. That's the one that is the biggest one for me. People already trust agents, right? We trust to input our credit card into Amazon and we click buy. And sometimes we even forget what we buy until we get home and say, what is this? Right? So we trust it. That was a notion 10 years ago. People say, I'm not going to trust it. You know, I don't trust buying groceries online. I don't. I start doing it and I'm like, oh, the milk is actually cold. It's not spoiled, right? So it takes time, but the reality is you need to support your management to understand that these customers will never trust agents. This is a consumer problem. We'll just wait and see. This is the one that's going to kill 90% of businesses. Because let me explain to you why. And I'm probably gonna go a little bit over time to explain this, but this is important. We talked about 10,000 employees, 100,000 agents, right? Let's say we're company one, we get one agent. We tell the agent, go buy me a laptop. The agent goes and scans 10 sites. And only one site, or let's say 4 sites, have the laptops. And then the agent's gonna go through all the parameters and all the requirements, right? The agent is going to remember that these other 6 sites are what? Worthless. I don't see them. I went there, I didn't like it. Agents have what? Memory. So now we are a growing company. We're going to get a second agent. We're going to train that agent based off what? The memory of the first agent. So now we're going to continue compounding all these agents that we're building. And guess what? You have been wiped out and you don't even know why nobody's buying your product, why nobody's coming to your store. It's going to compound. And this is the notion that most companies are going to fail. Next slide.
You're good, you're good. You just gotta
Sorry.
start talking.
Oh.
Yep.
I do have a question, doesn't that also then, for the company that is maybe purchasing these things, not on the business side of the person that's the manufacturer, but the company that's purchasing it, lead to a particular bias, in certain type of instances with certain products or maybe ideas, depending on how far this all goes?
I wrote a LinkedIn post not too long ago and I called it Agents Discriminate. Okay, and people didn't get it because people don't understand my humor. But my colleagues got it because agents discriminate. Agents are going to have biases. There's just no buts if about it. They are going to have biases. I'm not gonna go to that website because last time I went there, we bought some stuff and their return policy is horrendous. Guess what? Agent ain't gonna come back there. You know, if you went to your favorite coffee shop and they made you one bad coffee that one time because your favorite barista wasn't there, you kind of forgive them, right? Agents ain't gonna forgive you. They'll be like, gone. They move on, right? But nobody read my post. Actually, they read it, but nobody got it.
This goes back to the previous slide along the same topic at the moment. Where you say that they never trust agents. That's because nobody knows what the hell an agent is.
Today,
But that's your premise right now is, oh, we're using them like crazy. You got a perception problem, which leads to that last block.
so actually, accurate but not accurate. Agents, business to commerce, agents are used frequently. There's a large volume of companies that are operating in agents. There are large companies that are building up procurement capabilities, right? That's the big part, procurement capability. Think about the billions of dollars a company buys on pencils and desks and all this other stuff. Automate the entire process, right? So that commerce is happening. NVIDIA and some of the semiconductors, they are using agents to purchase a lot of the tools. So already at that level, there's billions of dollars being transacted. Let's go to the question and then I gotta try to wrap it up. Sure. According to Agent RFC formal verification research, what was found when five multi-agent protocol model were analyzed for security? This is an easy one, so I don't think we should spend too much time on it, but I talked about it. It was B, and there's 20 to 20 composition safety variants. Okay, let's move on. Keep going. Okay, so the governance must be embedded in the architecture. So now we're going to talk about what the governance may look like, right? So what does the governance look like? Hard-coded spending limits. That's what we talked about, the spend, but it might be some complexities around the spend, the discounts, and all the different tiers that you may have in your pricing perspective. Credential scoping, runtime, real-time telemetry is one item I talked about, and of course, automated circuit breaker. That's your kill switch. Call it whatever you want. That's your kill switch. Let's move on. The governance stack. The authority originates in the infrastructure. Accountability resides at the top. Assurance spans across all layers. The agent infrastructure, the wall execution, this is the level where you need to make sure from an audit perspective, from an IT perspective, that this is where everything is documented at the agent infrastructure level, right? Because everything else, the oversight, like who cares what the board said? The board might say, well, we want to be a company that appreciates agility, and nobody cares. The agent doesn't care about that. Doesn't care. The agent only cares what is actually within this the architecture, and of course the technical control, which is most of you guys IT professionals. Next slide. So from a regulation perspective, a lot of different regulations coming out. But the biggest one that you guys have to be aware of, especially if your company has interaction with the EU, is going to be the EU AI Act. That's the biggest one. Okay, and this is a completely separate topic all in itself. Okay, there are people out there that are just providing feedback. The EU AI Act is coming in effect in August. That's 3 months away. So if your company is not talking about it, you might want to get somebody involved over there. Cilia on the healthcare side, as well as the Cilia, and there was another one that on the healthcare side that's been very specific around agentic AI. Let's move on. The four governance exposures most audit functions have not addressed. One is the assurance gap, the accountability question, which we talked about, and there was a question around, and then the trust architecture problem is the one that I think most people have to really understand, and I'm going to talk through that on the next slide, or 2 slides following. All right, so this is the architecture that I believe we are going to be moving towards, at least from an audit perspective. IT guys, you guys gotta operate over here at the telemetry, right? We don't understand the auditors. We don't hang out with the cyber guys, right? The cyber guys, CrowdStrike, Defender, all these other vendors normalize at the security telemetry. They see that data. They see the ingestion of that data. So you need to talk to them and have them teach you what that data is, and then you can start asking those question that we had up front. At the second layer, it's going to be the agent register, right? And this is a policy bound. And then over here, you're going to have the agent execution, right? And this is where you have to track. My theoretical belief is that we're going to move into this GRC systems that then can actually get us the bi-directional metadata for the agent monitoring as well as the telemetry. And that's how, at the audit perspective, we're going to be able to manage and provide insightful data to our boards, to our leaders, so that they understand the risk. A lot of people don't even know how many agents they have. Don't even know. I don't know, 10. I don't know, 10. People don't even know. But you will know if you have a GRC tool that can provide all that data. And the IT security guys, well, they know. They know, but nobody's asking them. Okay, let's move on. We can skip this one, keep going. The mandate and the framework, let's go, keep going. All right, so there's all the existing frameworks, but they all fall short because none of them are actually addressing agentic AI. NIST AI framework that recently came out does not really deal with agentic AI. Go read it. Somebody debated me on this, and I'm like, okay, let's pull it up. Couldn't really find specific stuff, but the NIST AI framework, in my opinion, is the thing that comes the closest to all of these, because these are written for a different world. Okay, and this is not a gap, it's not a criticism towards its policies, but when you're talking about agentic AI, it's kind of out there on its own. Let's move on. So what does the audit universe look like? Scoping, the methodology, the assessment criteria, the reporting cadence. These are some of the things that you're gonna have to build out as you start interacting and assessing agents. Next. All right, what changes? What changes for internal audit? So again, I talked about 2 things. Understand to audit the kill switch. We talked about that. Understand that you need to understand what happens between the hops, the interfaces. That's critical. Understand that the orchestrator delegates, it does not execute, it delegates, and that sequence within the orchestrator can change. So audit must, the authority boundaries are embedded in the code, technical enforcement of spending constraints, credential custody rotation, and traceability. Next. So this slide is the slide that this is my gift to you guys, right? Take this slide, and as you ask each one of these questions, you're gonna get but, or if, and then just keep addressing those questions, and you will get to the right answer. Okay, so you can take any of these questions. Does the agent operate within a defined authority threshold? That's after you've asked them, what agents do we have? Then you go on to the next one, and then you go on to the next one, and eventually you will get to the right answers. Okay, next, and that's kind of your toolkit right there. Auditing the authority stat, that's critically important. You have to audit what authority your agents have. And this kind of walks you through the process. And the last piece of it was what? Audit the kill switch. Audit, I mean, just check it. It's like you walk in the middle of the night in your bedroom, like, oh, did the power go out? Oh, what do I do? Oh, I don't know. Go to the switch, turn it on and off. Power on, lights on, lights on. Everything's good. You move on, okay? Now, this might be a daunting task if you get to 100,000 agents. Okay? Maybe you can automate that audit somehow. Next. And the accountability gap. So who is accountable for all of this for the agent interactive? We talked about it a little bit earlier. The board, the audit committee, internal audit, technology, business unit, risk management. I mean, let's just throw everybody on there. The janitors, everybody's accountable for this. Okay, but the reality is we need to document it because a regulator is going to sniff this out really quickly. They haven't started yet, not that I've heard of, but when they do, they're going to sniff it out really, really quickly. Okay, so the accountability gap is something that auditors, CISOs, all of us got talked through, so we document that. Okay, next. Okay, audit testing for autonomous agents, transaction sampling, continuous monitoring, I think to me is gonna be the most critical one, because obviously the agents don't sleep. So you need to have a capability to build a continuous monitoring. And I believe the cyber guys, they can help you with this. Auditors, you gotta go talk to your IT folks because they monitor just about, I don't know what they don't monitor, but they monitor everything. Okay, and they have the ability, so they already have the skill set. Gain some of their skill set so you can build that capability to monitor agents.
When you're talking about the who's responsible on the last slide, it's kind of similar to the big discussion right now of who's responsible for the autonomous vehicles. It's the same question, right?
Correct.
Who's responsible when the Waymo runs a stoplight or something or hits somebody? You know, who ends up responsible? So it's the same question, it's just a different industry.
Although if a Waymo caused an accident, we know who to sue.
Everybody.
Right? So, that's right. Okay, look, next one. So again, take those slides and just use them. And then what a mature agentic audit program looks like. There's level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4. I will tell you this, to go from a level 1 to a level 3, it has nothing to do with capital, resources. It has nothing to do you needing anything more than what you currently have. It's all about prioritization. Okay, it's all about prioritization. Look at your audit plan. Look at all the stuff that you have to do. How important is it? What is the risk associated with agentic AI? If you only have one agent in your company and they're just managing a scheduling, okay, no big deal, right? But if the agent is transacting on $100 million or $200 million or $1 billion, well, I don't know. That might be, you might want to start reprioritizing that, right? So I don't believe that level 1 to level 3 requires significant additional capital. It's just prioritization, developing a skill set, working with your cybersecurity team so that they can teach you how to monitor. And by the way, I'm going to throw that tool out there. Tanium is amazing. Tanium is sick in terms of what it can do for agentic monitoring. Just, I don't get paid by them, but I've seen a model built at a company that it was just insane. Next. Okay, so we're gonna get to a point where AI is going to be defending AI. The art of the possible. CrowdStrike, Microsoft, Palo Alto. Talk to these vendors. If this is your vendor, guess what? Go talk to them. They have it built. Maybe they haven't turned it on, or maybe you need to pay an extra fee. Two of them have it for free right now. One is charging. Okay? Two of them have capabilities for you to monitor autonomous agents for free within your existing licenses. One is charging. But I think the other two are gonna figure it out as well. Okay? But learn from them. Reach out to your vendor and have them walk you through what the art of the possible is. Next. I'm not gonna, nope, let's move on. Move. All right, the core principles for safe agentic AI deployment. So these last slides just really just help you think through in terms of what you're going to do. So there's 5 principles that separate a governed agentic system from an ungoverned one, right? So there's minimum authority, observable behavior, explicit consent, and reversible actions. So just kind of walk through some of these questions, and you'll get to the right answers. Next. All right, human in the loop design, right? So tiered architectural versus operational escalation, last minute credential models. Again, it just talks about not every step, the right step, oversight that scales without becoming a bottleneck, right? So build out those capabilities. But again, I don't know why this slide is moving, everything looks weird, but I'll send you an updated one before you distribute it, Dave. But again, just work with your teams and look at some of these questions on here, and you guys will get to the right answers. Yeah, this is a pretty important slide. So building your audit-ready agentic system. Think about immutable decision logs, right? So what decisions are being made as the agent is executing it? Remember I talked about the orchestrator? What does it do? It delegates. It doesn't execute anything. Understand the decision tree in terms of what those parameters and guardrails are for the orchestrator. That's important. Because once you understand that, who cares how everything else goes? It's almost like you tell your quarterback it's a run play. Okay, it should be a run play. Right? The quarterback is not just gonna all of a sudden turn around and trying to throw the ball deep or something like that, right? It's an important piece of you to understand. Delegation of token traceability. This becomes critically important because obviously the tokens is equivalent to what? Money, right? Next. Again, this is just a pre-deployment checklist that you guys can all use. Let's see, is there one more slide? Okay, so then from policy, we talked about earlier, the board policies, agents don't care. The agents don't care what your board thinks. They don't care what management thinks. They don't care what it cares about is the policy enforced in architecture. Okay, this is what the agent care about. And this is what you need to audit. Now you can say, I'm going to audit this, but I'm going to make sure that the architecture is reflective of the policy. Because if it's not, guess what? The agent is going to interact outside of the business's intent. Right? That's a question I asked you guys before, but this is the question that answers it. Okay? Next. Again, this kind of shows you, this tells you what you should be looking for. Print this, go ask around, become annoying, and but just remember that the last one on the bottom is the only thing. If you do nothing of the above, just audit the kill switch. Just say, yeah, the kill switch works. Okay, we're good. Go home. Okay, next. Again, questions. These are questions. I call this questions for the board, but it's really questions for leadership, your CTOs and others. Just go ask them these questions. And we start with these when we meet with some clients, and you'd be surprised the answers you get. You'd be surprised. You're like, oh, wow, okay. All right. How many agents operate inside the enterprise environment today? Don't know. Because IT us people in the business, IT, you guys build. Your job is not to count, keep track of policies. Your job is to build it. You're builders. Right? The policy comes later. But in reality, the build and the policy and the procedures and the architecture should all be moving together. But I've been around long enough that IT is gonna build it and then internal audit comes in to check, oh, what did you guys build? Well, I don't know. Right? So be in the room. Next. Okay, so for audit mandate, the CA mandate is the agent economy, is the technical threshold, full exposures and strategic position. Be in the room is basically what this slide is saying. For auditors, be in the room, IT, slow down, invite internal audit. We're not going to slow you guys down. We're gonna let you guys build, but just invite us so we understand what it is that you're building. Okay, next slide. I think we should be done. All right, governance. So the prerequisite is not the barrier. The aging economy will not wait for governance to catch up. The companies that move the fastest on agentic infrastructure will be the ones that most likely will outrun their own controlled environment. That is where the real risk lives, not whether you build for agents, in whether your board is asking the right questions. So again, the thesis of this whole presentation is like, walk away with those three things we discussed, right? I gave you the 5 or 6 slides with a lot of different questions to ask. Take those and ask those questions. And I think, actually, I know all of us here, once you ask the first question, you're gonna know what the sub question is going to be associated with each one of those, and you will get to the right answers. And once you get the package of all your questions answered, you're gonna know exactly where the risk lies within your particular organization. Okay, think about your level 0. Are you a CrowdStrike shop? Are you Palo Alto, Microsoft Defender? All that is going to depend on how you're going to get the data, but your security and cyber guys and gals, they know it. Just ask them. It's so simple. Just ask them. Nobody asked them, but they will tell you. So, and that's it. Thank you, and appreciate the opportunity to speak to you guys.
Thank you.